What is the truth in the stories we are told? We've been given a story of a world fueled by separation. We've become separate from one another, separate from the earth, ultimately separate from the true nature of ourselves. It's time we learn the truth. It's time you rewrite your story. It's time to realign with who it is that you really are. This is the fifth dimension.
You are infinite and eternal. We are infinite and eternal.
Our natural essence, we could say, is simply being.
We have this awakening coming together as a perfect storm.
We're ready for this. We have the capacity inside. We just got to find that.
All right, I want to welcome everybody into the Fifth Dimension podcast with me, Evan McDermott. I hope you're ready because we're talking about Project Bluebeam in this episode, and I'm quite excited to talk about it. I've been kind of wanting to dive into this subject for a little while, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read straight from the document that Serge Monast, who kind of brought this quote-unquote conspiracy to light, this was a document he sent out about Project Bluebeam. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read it, react to it, and sort of respond to how it's manifesting in the modern day, right? So that's what the plan is. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all you guys listening and interested in this topic like I am. It's crazy. I was going to wait a few days to do this, but I just did a chakra balancing meditation. And, I'm feeling pretty good. And I was like, why not? It's midnight on now Wednesday. I'm not usually up this late, but I got nothing going on tomorrow morning. So here we go. We're going balls deep. So what I'm going to do is if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share the screen with you. But, if you're going to, how do we do this? Share screen. I'm going to share the screen with you. Boom. We're on the document. And everyone who's listening, you'll be able to follow along quite well. So Project Bluebeam, Serge Monast, just a little bit of a background. I mean, this is 1990s that he first published this, originally 1994, around there. And so we're going to get into it. I guess he turned up dead from a quote-unquote heart attack. His family, his daughters were taken away from him. One of his daughters got abducted. He was only 46 years old when he passed away. So this information, you could say, has been safeguarded. They don't want you to read or know about Project Bluebeam. And I think it's relevant right now because we're hearing all about UFOs. I got my UFO shirt on. We're hearing all about UFOs. We're hearing all about one world religion and all a fake alien invasion and all of that. And this is going to kind of explain where all of that comes from. And he's going to provide some proof. I mean, I've only skimmed this document, so you're kind of getting my initial reaction with this. But he provides some solid evidence that this is potentially something we should really be talking about. So I'll let you guys hold your own opinions on it because we're all going to have different interpretations on exactly how this is playing out. There's no particular right or wrong here, but we're just trying to uncover what's going on, trying to look at this with an open heart, open mind, as you should really with any theory. So let's dive into this. I'm going to start reading it. NASA's Project Bluebeam. And for those who have never heard this theory, my goodness, fasten your seatbelt. You're in for a wild ride. So by Serge Monast, 1994, the infamous National Aeronautics and Space Administration Bluebeam Project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is very foundation for the New World government, without which religion the dictatorship of the New World Order is completely impossible. I'll repeat that. Without a universal belief in the New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be impossible. This is why the Bluebeam Project is so important to them, but has been hidden so well until now. So yeah, this is big on the New World religion. Something I haven't really talked about on the podcast, but we're going to keep diving in here. Engineered earthquakes and hoax discoveries. The first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown, reevaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations on the planet, of supposedly new discoveries which will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines. The falsification of this information will be used to make all nations believe that their religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. Psychological preparations for that first step have already been implemented with the film 2001 A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, and Independence Day, all of which deal with invasions from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last film, Jurassic Park, deals with the theories of evolution and claim God words are lies. Now, before we jump any further, I'm having this thought pop out. This idea of a new age religion, right? I can see why it would be appealing to some people with a very spiritual background. And here's why, right? A lot of these uh, religious principles that we're talking about, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, a lot of them, Buddhism, you could point to all of them. A lot of these are stemming from the same universal teachings, right? We're talking about Christ consciousness, for example, is the embodiment of unconditional love, which is written within all scriptures. I mean, all scriptures have the flood and the chaos, for example. They have all of these archetypal lessons that are built upon, and they were all really brought out by these prophets, right? And so religions oftentimes are funded on very similar principles. And so this idea of a one world religion, if people have this epiphany that, oh, my religion is interconnected with all other religions, which is true, but then that epiphany is used to usher in this one world religion, that is something I could see very well happening, and why a lot of people would fall for it, right? Because, we outsource our spiritual beliefs to particular doctrines all the time. That's what a lot of just practicing, like any religion, right? And you don't have that deeper spiritual connection. I know that exists for certain people. This idea of a one world religion, that same outsourcing could take place without having a true self discovery process for spirituality, for religion. It's really about the people who could be coaxed into this. It's really all about that external religion. If we have our own internal spiritual understanding that goes beyond just one specific religion, we can see through the underlying motivations of something like the one world religion, right? So I just want to put that out there because I think that's really important for you to develop your own spiritual connection in this time. That's is really, if we're looking at Bluebeam, they're relying on you not doing that, not internalizing it and asking these deeper questions. So, hoax discoveries. What is important to understand in the first step is that those earthquakes will hit at different points of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. By those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover those arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all fundamental religious doctrines. This is the first preparation for the plan for humanity, because what they want to do is destroy the beliefs of all Christians and Muslims on the planet. To do that, they need some false proof from the far past that will prove to all nations that their religions have been misinterpreted and misunderstood. Again, playing into that misinterpreted and misunderstood, it's saying that we can build on your previous religion, right? We just misunderstood it before, but now we know more. So, continuing on, the big space show in the sky. The second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show with three-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projection of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to predominating regional, national, religious faith. This new God's voice will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must study various Secret Services research done in the last 25 years. The Soviets have perfected an advanced computer, even exported them, and fed them with the minute physiopsychological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body, and the studies of the electrical, chemical, and biological properties of the human brain. These computers were fed as well with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings. The dialects of all cultures had been fed into the computers from satellite transmissions. The Soviets began to feed the computers with objective programs like the ones of the new Messiah. It also seems that the Soviets, the New World Order people, have resorted to suicidal methods with the human society by allocating electronic wavelengths for every person in every society and culture to induce suicidal thoughts if the person doesn't comply with the dictates of the New World Order. Wow. And, it's crazy because there definitely is some sort of, this is just my own thoughts here, programming of the subconscious mind, right? We are wavelength beings. We have a frequency, we have an electromagnetic field. And if they're programming these things into the electromagnetic field, it is going to have an impact on us. I mean, that's why people, I can't even say the two letters, it starts with a five. Can't even say that on YouTube or I'll get banned. But, it brings up valid concerns. I can't claim to have all the science or have all of these different studies backing me, but it's a question because we are EMF beings, and a change in the atmosphere in terms of the signals going out, that is going to have an impact. And so and this is written about in 1990s. We think this hasn't been achieved by now. I mean, it makes me think of Bob Lazar in the interview he did with Joe Rogan and his story, talking about the type of technology that they had at Area 51. The CIA has, FBI has, all these government agencies, NASA in particular, who this is about. So, none of this by any means is out of the question. So let's continue. There are two different aspects of step 2. The first is the space show. Where does the space show come from? The space show, the holographic images, will be used in a simulation of the ending, during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversary events. These will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer about 60 miles above the Earth. We see tests every once in a while, but they are called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. The result of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the new Messiah, Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the New World religion. Enough truth will be foisted upon an unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned will be deceived. Now, that last line is quite chilling about the unsuspecting world. I mean, they are peppering us with the UFO stuff right now. Why do you think they're conditioning that into us? It'll be an unsuspecting world, but there'll be enough truth within it in our minds that we can be hooked in. We can say, oh, this is legit. I trust what they're saying here. And we'll come up with whatever evidence we can to support that. Just look at the past year and a half. Look at everything that's been coming to fruition. And how is the world being told to act? Right? The project has perfected the ability for some device, referred to as tractor beams by ufologists, to lift up an enormous number of people, as in a rapture, and whisk the entire group into a never land. We see tests of this device in the abduction of humans by those mysterious little alien greys who snatch people out of their beds and through windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in all of human history. Now, I will say, I do believe that there are UFOs, actual UFOs, and they're here. I've had contact through the third eye, in the astral plane, with beings, higher frequency beings who are here to support us. So, they're peppering us with truth. I think it's safe to say that we know there are UFOs, but maybe we're not. There's no UFOs in the way that we are told there is. There's certain levels of truth to it, but what is it really? What is it really? Let's continue. The Blue Beam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event that which occurred 2,000 years ago. And we're talking the birth of Christ there. In principle, it will make us disguise as a movie screen on the sodium layer at about 60 miles as space-based laser-generating satellites project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspect of the New World Order and is deception and seduction on a massive scale. So this is going to be like God talking, coming down, giving this, like or the aliens, it'll be this higher intelligence being telling us, giving us this gift of knowledge, if you will, about religion. And so this is like God talking. We can see this is something that is so out there for a lot of people, reality shattering, that they're going to feel no choice but to go along with us. I gotta hit a sip of water there. A lot of chatting in this one. But, people who are doing their own research, asking their own questions, they're going to see right through this. So this divide is going to continue to grow stronger. All right, let's continue. Computers will coordinate the satellites, and software already in place will run the sky show. Holographic images are based on nearly identical signals combining to produce an image or hologram with deep perspective, which is equally applicable to acoustic ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomena. Specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the specific national, regional religion. Not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depths of space. Astonished ardent followers of various creeds will witness their own returned messiahs in convincing, lifelike reality. Unbelievable. And the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc., will merge into one after correct explanations of the mysterious and revelations will have been disclosed. This one God will in fact be the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age, new world religion, representing the one God Antichrist they see before them. Now, again, they're sprinkling in so much truth there. Like, religions have been used to divide brother against brother, have been used to divide nation against nation. There are so many people who have died in the name of God, which goes against the actual true religious principles, the true spiritual principles that's based upon. So they're giving all this truth and then asking them again to outsource them the same way to this new Antichrist, right? That I can see how people would fall for it, would buy into this, because there's so much truth within it. That's how people get hooked, because they recognize truth, but then they're not trained to ask those critical thinking questions about this, right? Let's continue. Naturally, this superficially staged falsification will result in dissolved social and religious disorder on a grand scale, each nation blaming the other for the deception, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. In addition, this event will occur at a time of profound worldwide political anarchy and general tumult created by some worldwide catastrophe. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? The United Nations even now plans to use Beethoven's Song of Joy as the anthem for the introduction for the New Age One World religion. I have to write that one down, see if it comes true. If I hear Song of Joy, oh man, oh man. If we put this space show in parallel with the Star Wars program, we get this combination of electromagnetic radiation and hypnosis, which have been the subject of intensive research. In 1974, for instance, researcher G.F. Shapitz said one of the research proposals that in this investigation it will be shown that the spoken words of the hypnotist may also be converted by electromagnetic energy directly into the subconscious part of the human brain without employing any mechanical device for receiving or transcoding the message, and without the person exposed to such influence having the chance to control the information input consciously. It may be expected that the rationalized behavior will be considered to have taken out their own free will. Oh my goodness. So implanting the subconscious mind. And oh, he's about to make a great point. I'm going to read this paragraph and go into exactly what I was about to say. Anyone investigating so-called channeling phenomena right now would be wise to take this area of research into consideration. It will be noted that those who think of themselves as channelers has escalated rapidly since this type of research was conducted. It is uncanny how similar their message are, despite which entity they claim to be their source of divine guidance. It would suggest any individual considering the credibility of channeled information should be discerning and critically evaluate where the message they are receiving originates and if the messages are specifically beneficial to the New World Order. Now, that is a massive paragraph. And because I know a lot of people who channel, I channel myself. There is a distinct difference between channeling from source and channeling for outsourcing, because even with your own channeling you can't necessarily like consider it proof just because you feel like you're channeling from somewhere. I've had to really learn this myself. What does this message outline? What am I actually saying here? If I'm looking at, let's say, Great Reset, New World Order, the events that are taking place in the world, does this message enhance that perspective? Is this authentically me speaking this based on what I know? And you really have to ask those questions. You really have to ask those questions, even though you're channeling it. I've definitely channeled things and I'm like, I don't think that's right, actually, now that I'm like listening back on it. So we have to be very conscious about our channeling and be willing to admit that not everything we channel or other people channel is going to be exactly what our soul is saying. We can channel from the soul, from source. It just takes conscious effort. So be aware of that. I thought that was an incredibly important paragraph. Anyways, the Sydney Morning newspaper published an item on March 21st, 1983, which announced that the Soviets were invading the human mind. The article having been submitted to the foreign editor by Dr. Nathan Abnounji, assistant professor in the Faculty of Agriculture in Asia. It is worth quoting that the article at length, even though his grammar is a little old. This article relates to the Soviets who created the supercomputer we were discussing earlier, which is really important because these types of computers can be run through satellites and through space. The computers were fed with all the different languages and their meanings. The dialect of all peoples were fed to the computers with objective programs. But we are no longer talking about the Soviets. We are talking about the United Nations, the minions of the New World Order, who are feeding the computers with the necessary information. Just want to say, the UN, these groups right now, it's kind of like, it's funny we think we don't already live under a one world government, New World Order, right? Look at lockdown policy all around the world, for example. That's all coming from the same people. More WHO, United Nations, European Union. They're all following the same script. They're giving it their own lingo. They might be naming the tiers differently, giving it numbers or letters or blue and purple and giving it colors, but it's all the same shit. All of it. All of it. We're already operating under the sense of a one world government because of these quote unquote philanthropic institutions and unelected officials, bureaucrats, really. So just thought I'd throw that out there. The editor of the column in which the article appeared even states that the piece made points too important to ignore. I think it is possible that the persons who have created this mega mind control program could sell the software to an organization and not be aware that the client might use the program and data to enslave all of humankind. Just imagine how far they have advanced since the article was published. That was published 1983. I am speaking in 2021. Man, shit, I'm not very good at math, but that's a lot of years. So, just it comes back to the type of technology Bob Lazar was talking about. These things exist. These things exist. The amount of technology that we see as a population, we maybe see 5% of what we got, what we have achieved, or what we have been given. So just keep that in mind. This technology that exists without our knowledge, think Black Mirror shit. Black Mirror is probably just a confirmation that we have this. It's waiting for you. Programming, baby. Anyways, artificial thought and communication. The advancement of techniques propel us forward, the third step in the Blue Beam project that goes along with the telepathic and electronically augmented two-way communication where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing each of them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memoirs of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffuse artificial thought. You know, the goal all along has been the linking of the human brain to AI. And what I'm getting from this, and you know, it's a little heart-wrenching a little bit, because it's pointing to the idea that it's not as simple as taking a vaccine or something and getting this implanted into you with your consent or against your consent. It's really implying that they're going to do this shit like electromagnetically. Like they're going to put this in us when we won't even see it. It'll just happen. So, man, that's a hard one. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's why we got to get this fucking information out there. Share this shit around. Seriously. We can't let this fucking shit happen. Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. Let's continue. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s research where the human brain has been compared to a computer. Information is fed in, processed, integrated, and then a response is formulated and acted upon. Mind controllers manipulate information the same way a computer programmer manipulates information. In January 1991, the University of Arizona hosted a conference entitled the NATO Advanced Research Workshop on Current and Emergent Phenomena and Biomolecular Systems. What does that mean exactly? It means this. We refer to one paper that was delivered at the conference which stands out for its different attitude towards the development under a discussion at that time. It was in effect a protest and chilling warning to the attending scientists about the potential abuse of their research findings. Their findings, of course, stated that the United States has already developed communications equipment which can make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk. It can relieve the terminally ill from pain without the use of drugs or surgery. I'm not talking about science fiction. A man might retain the use of all his faculties right up to the moment of his death. This communications equipment depends upon a completely new way of looking at the human brain in neuromuscular systems and radiation pulses at ultra-low frequencies. Some of this equipment is now operational within the CIA and FBI. It will never be used to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk because it's central to the domestic political agenda and foreign policy of George Bush and his puppet masters of the New World Order. Domestically, the new communications equipment is being used to torture and murder persons who matches profiles imagined to be able to screen a given population for terrorists, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations which promote tolerance and peace and development in Central America, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations who oppose the development and deployment of nuclear weapons, and to create a race of slave cult automatons, or what is potentially called the Manchurian candidates. Overseas experimentation is taking place on hostages held by the United States and Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Finland, and France. Additionally, there's been a long series of bizarre suicides among British computer scientists, all of whom have had the same connection to the United States Navy. Now, if we're looking at this is 1994, we're looking at this modern day, we already have proof that this is correct. Look at what's going on in Venezuela, Central America, Southern America. Look what has happened over the past 28 years since this document was written. 94, not 28 years, 26 years, 25 years. I'm 25, born in 95, 27 years. Anyways, look what's taking place. The terrorism, quote unquote terrorism, manufactured terrorism. So all of this chaos, it's all been happening. It's been taking place. So, all of this stuff is happening. Just look. The evidence is right there. What is possible to ask before such a psychology of terror is this? Would any government, corporation, or psychiatrist willfully promote such horror today? The answer is quite obviously yes. Government agencies and the corporations that work with them toward a new world order are prepared to promote anything that will help them achieve their objective of total social control. As for the question of why, for one thing, if you terrify the public and make them fear for their safety, they will allow you to implement draconian law, enforcement practice, disarm them, and keep extensive records on them. And they only have to tell you that it is all to protect you, of course. Motherfucker, this man predicted it. Read that again and tell me that that is not coronavirus. Secondly, it promotes the decay of the present democratic forms of political systems and leads societies to search for alternative methods of political ideology. Of course, the alternative has already been planned. It's called the New World Order, and it will not have your safety or interests at heart. As George Bush said, read my lips. Fear has always been used by powerful elite to control and subjugate the masses. Yes, they fucking have. And this past year is a perfect example of that. This is going to continue to ramp up. A lot of people think that coronavirus is almost over. None of this is going to happen. What has been the last 50 years? It's been the slow escalation of fear. How many times did they try and sell a pandemic on the public? Look what happened with 9/11. All of it is fear, fear, fear. What does the news promote? Fear. It's all for control, to keep you sterile, docile, complacent. It amazes me when people are so blinded by their fear that they're unable to see the reality that they're living in. Right? It's just unbelievable. Sorry, very thirsty. Drinking straight out the gallon jug. It's like 95 degrees in South Dakota, even here at 12:32 at night. It's one of those nights. But let's continue. The old maxim, divide and conquer, is being played out to the limit worldwide to ensure that everyone is frightened for their personal safety and to be suspicious of everyone else. Oh, that sounds like all the motherfuckers who do not have the vaccine or do not wear a mask. You are suspicious. You are spreading a deadly virus. You are a grandma killer. This, too, is mind control. To go further in regard to the new technology, which is at the base of the NASA Blue Beam project, we have to consider this statement by psychologist James V. McConnell, which was published in a 1970s issue of Psychology Today. He said, "The day has come. We can combine sensory deprivation with drug hypnosis and astute manipulation of reward and punishment to gain almost absolute control over an individual's behavior. It should then be possible to achieve a very rapid and highly effective type of positive brainwashing that would allow us to make dramatic changes in a person's behavior and personality." Positive brainwashing. I do not think I have ever heard that one used before. I mean, we hear of hypnosis and using that for therapy, but this is a whole nother level. Like, let's just positively brainwash the public so that they can feel safe and, they can't recognize that we're using them and bending them over backwards as we have total control of the whole world. Yeah, that sounds like some positive brainwashing to me. And let me say that. So, now, when we talked before about that kind of ray and the telepathic and electronically augmented communication, the kind of rays that are fed from the memories of computers, which store massive data about humans, human language, and dialects. And we said that the people will be reached from within, making each person to believe that his own God is speaking directly from within his or her own soul. We refer to that kind of technology and that kind of thinking that same psychologist was espousing. That is, we should be trained from birth, that we should all do what society wants us to do rather than what we want to do for ourselves. That's because they have the technology to do it. No one should now be allowed to have their own individual personality. This statement and these ideas are important because it is the basic teaching of the United Nations that no one owns his or her own personality. And that same psychologist claims that no one has any say about the kind of personality they acquire, and there's no reason to believe you have the right to refuse to acquire a new personality if your old personality is considered antisocial. Now, we can see how all of the indoctrination within our education systems, within our idea about what life should be collectively, our values, we can see how this is slowly already happening. And for many, has already happened. You know, once we get to a certain point, there is going to be no waking up for some people. Once you are awake, you are eternally awake. You are eternally awake. So there will be a select few who are able to somehow resist this. That group is growing each day. So, but this is why it's so important to get this information out there, because once some people reach a certain level, there's no going back. And a lot of people may already be there. What is important in this declaration is that the New World Order will set up over the current system, meaning the old way of thinking and behavior and religion will be considered the old and incorrect way of thinking, and that they can change it at one of the eradication camps of the United Nations to make sure that anyone with this antisocial behavior will be disposed of quickly so that other modified individuals will be able to fill the needs and agendas of the New World Order without being distracted by the truth. This is very 1984-ish, and the Ministry of Truth, so in charge of propaganda, our lead character, I'm blanking on his name, unbelievable, but being a rebel, understanding truth and how he was brainwashed back into it through torture. These people, these camps, they already exist. FEMA camps, they're already a thing. So they exist. They exist. This stuff has been well in the works for a while. Could this be? Could it just be the greatest mind control project ever? The NASA Blue Beam Project is the prime directive for the New World Order's absolute control over the populations of the entire Earth. I would suggest you investigate this information carefully before dismissing it as fanatic lunacy. If we go further in the different reports we have presented, we find that the mind control operations and technology include a transmitter that broadcasts at the same frequency as the human nervous system, which transmitter is manufactured by the Laurel Electro-Optical System in Pasadena, California. Laurel, a major defense contractor, has previously conducted research on directed energy weapons for Lieutenant General Leonard Perez of the U.S. Air Force, who was searching for a weapon that could implant messages into the minds of the enemy while urging his own troops onto superhuman deeds of valor. The device employs electromagnetic radiation of gigahertz frequencies, microwaves, pulsed at extremely low frequencies. It is used to torture people both physically and mentally from a distance. Weapons of this type are thought to have been used against a British woman protesting the presence of American cruise missiles at Greenham Common Air Base during the 1970s. This weapon can be used to induce totally sensory deprivation by broadcasting signals into the auditory nerve at such a high power that it blocks the ability of the individual to hear themselves think. Ay, ay, ay. The process employed by such ELF technologies are described in various U.S. Defense Department publications, including one entitled The Electromagnetic Spectrum in Low Intensity Conflict by Captain Paul E. Tyler, Medical Commandant of U.S. Navy, which is included in a collection entitled Low Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology Edict by Lieutenant Colonel David G. Dean. The paper was delivered in 1984 and the collection published 1986 by Air University Press, Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama. Another pulse microwave device can deliver audible signals directly into the individual while remaining undetectable to anyone else. The technology is very simple. It can be built by using an ordinary police radar gun. The microwave beam generated by the device is modulated at audio frequencies and can broadcast messages directly into the brain. Now, here we come to the NASA Blue Beam project. The broadcasting of subliminal two-way communication and images from the depths of space correspond directly to that kind of technology. In his book, The Body Electric, Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Robert O. Becker describes a series of experiments conducted in the early 1960s by Alan Fry, where this phenomenon was demonstrated as well as later experiments conducted in 1973 at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp, who personally underwent tests in which he proved he could hear and understand messages delivered to him in an echo-free isolation chamber via a pulsed microwave audiogram, which is an analog of the word sound vibration beamed into his brain. Becker then goes on to state, such a device has obvious application for covert operations designed to drive a target crazy with unknown voices or deliver undetectable instructions to a programmed assassin. Again, we're talking about this technology just being thrown at us. We don't need no vaccine to be infiltrated, you could say. We are electromagnetic beings. We are frequency beings. To think this is not possible is pure ignorance. How do you feel after listening to binaural beats or sound waves? It's of giving you a frequency. It's changing your frequency. After meditating, you're changing your frequency. Food has frequency. Shitty food, bad frequency. Lower frequency. Organic, higher frequency. We are frequency beings. And, we live in a holographic reality in a sense because our physical bodies, they're an illusion. We're a frequency. And everything that we see, interact with, senses, it's all a projection of the mind. All of it. It's all a projection, an internal projection from our frequency. So, now figure out when we hear the voice from the New World Messiah, who would be speaking from space to all of the sane people of the earth who might give instructions to zealots and religious fanatics. We would see hysteria and social mayhem on a scale never witnessed before on this planet. No police forces in the world, even as a combined front, could deal with the disorder that will follow. A 1978 book entitled Microwave Auditory Effect and Application by James C. Lynn describes how audible voices can be broadcast directly into the brain. This technology could allow the blind to see and the deaf to hear. Instead, it has been turned into a weapon to enslave the world. This is like an Orwellian wet dream, man. Like, I don't think Orwell could have even predicted the amount, how his predictions would actually come to fruition. You know, we see the brainwashed population in 1984. We don't see how it happened directly. We see that they've been tricked. How were they tricked? Here it is. Here it is. For literally brainwashed. And you thought the sci-fi movies were fiction. Alan Fry also reports that he could speed up, slow down, or stop the hearts of isolated frogs by synchronizing the pulse rate of a microwave beam with the heart itself. According to Dr. Robert Becker, similar results have been obtained using live frogs, which shows that it is technically feasible to produce heart attacks with rays designed to penetrate the human chest. Let's remember, Serge Monast died of a quote-unquote heart attack. What would be the cruel irony that that exact statement is what happened to him? Now, I don't have the proof. Like, maybe go get you an autopsy saying it was a heart attack. What caused that heart attack? He was perfectly healthy. He was in his 40s. Editor's note, both the author of this report and his colleague died of heart attacks only days apart. I should also mention that Dr. Becker does not participate in such research. Fascinating. They even put that editor's note in there. It has been demonstrated that focused ultra-high frequency UHF electromagnetic energy beams can be used to induce considerable agitation and muscular activity or induce muscular weakness and lethargy. Microwaves can also be used to burn human skin and aid the effect of drugs, bacteria, and poisons, or affect the function of the entire brain. These effects were all revealed at length by the CIA on September 21st, 1977, in testimony before the Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who directed the MK-Ultra program at that time, was forced to discuss the scope of the CIA's research to find techniques of activation of the human organism by remote electronic means. So this is something that exists right now that has been pursued to its highest degree, that can be used from space to reach any person, any place on the face of the earth. MK Ultra is real, folks. Go research that if you have not researched it. CIA even admits it's real. If we go, is that the right place? Yes, it is. If we go deeper into the process of mind control over the people, we find that the equipment and technology has been used to influence politics in a much more direct fashion. Michael Dukakis, a Democratic candidate running against George Bush in the 88 election, was targeted with microwave technologies in order to impede his public speaking performance once the public opinion polls showed he posed a serious threat to Bush's election prospects. He also claims that the equipment was used against Kitty Dukakis and drove her to the brink of suicide. In the Disneyland world of U.S. politics, a presidential candidate with problems such as these would obviously lose their race for the White House. In the December 1980 edition of the U.S. Army Journal, called the Military Review, a column by Colonel John B. Alexander entitled "The New Mental Battlefield, Beam Me Up, Spock," provides further insight into the technological capabilities at the disposal of his controller. He writes, several examples will demonstrate areas in which progress have been made: the transference of energy from one organism to another, the ability to heal or cause disease to be transmitted over a distance, thus inducing illness or death from no apparent cause. Telepathic behavior modification, which includes the ability to induce hypnotic states up to a distance of 1,000 kilometers, have been reported. The use of telepathic hypnosis also holds great potential. This capability could allow agents to be deeply planted with no conscious knowledge of their programming. In movie terms, the Manchurian Candidate lives and does not even require a telephone call. Other mind-to-mind induction techniques are being considered. If perfected, this capability could allow the direct transference of thought via telepathy from one mind or groups of minds to select target audience. The unique factor is that the recipient will not be aware that the thought has been implanted from an external source. He or she believe the thoughts are original. Wow, I just had some wicked deja vu from that. Huh? Interesting. Thoughts being implanted. No, but yeah, interesting deja vu right there. I feel like that's kind of a side note, I suppose. That's definitely increased in frequency for me. I don't know about anyone else. And a couple people I've talked to have said the same thing. There's been more deja vu lately. I think that's the energetic state. A lot of these things that they're mentioning, telepathy, um, going into the astral, all these things are possible by the human mind already. Like, we can do this. The power of the mind is unbelievable. You know, this is why they're able to even create such technologies, because the mind is already capable of these things. And they're able to now transfer it, measure it. So it's really just a measurement of our own like powers, right? But it's being used to manipulate and really enslave the entire population. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. Anyways, this is exactly what we were talking about. The third step in the NASA Bluebeam project is called telepathic electronic two-way communication. Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander's article continues. It is possible to feed artificial thought into the multigenic field via satellite. The mind control of the entire planet is now possible. An individual's only resistance would be to constantly question the motivation behind their thoughts and not act upon thoughts which they consider to be outside their own ideological, religious, and moral boundaries. Isn't this exactly what I was saying about channeling earlier? Exactly what I was saying. When you know your own uh, infinite and eternal state, that is why you were eternally awake. You know, the mind control might step up. We might have these rebel thoughts, if you will, coming in. But if we have enough knowing in who we are, we can never be taken over. It'll get harder, but we have to just stay in awareness. Stay in awareness. Stay in awareness. That's what Ram Dass said, the beautiful quote of, regardless of this is the age of Aquarius, the golden age, or this is the Armageddon, my job remains the same. Stay in awareness, relieve suffering. Now, that's not the exact quote. I butchered it a little bit, but that's, you get the gist. Stay in awareness, relieve suffering. Recognize you versus this artificial intelligence. It's the only hope we have in a lot of this situation. Hope that the awakening is happening fast enough, which I personally believe it is. I really do. I really believe it is, and we are thwarting a lot of this. So many people are aware of Operation Bluebeam. Like, I just wanted to give you the direct text, let you hear his exact words, and give my own interpretation. But so many people are becoming aware of this. So there is a lot of hope. I'm hopeful more than anything else. All right. Once again, it is wise to consider how television, advertising, modern education, and various types of social pressure are used to manipulate those boundaries. It has been reported by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander, who said in the summary of his military review article, the information on these kind of technologies presented here would be considered by some to be ridiculous, since it does not conform to their view of reality. But some people still believe the world is flat. The world is flat, not flat. To psyop, to prevent you from learning about Hollow Earth. Now, this means a lot, because if people do not believe this kind of technology is possible, or that it is science fiction, these people put themselves in great jeopardy. Because on the night when those 1,000 stars will shine from space, during the night when the new Messiah will be presented to the world, they will not be prepared and will have no time to prepare to save themselves against this kind of technology. They don't believe, and they won't take the time to prepare. So that's exactly what I was just saying. There's going to be people who are not going to give a shit. They're going to go right along with it. You can't do anything about them. You can try with all your heart to awaken with love and compassion, but if somebody's not going to do it, they're not going to do it. That's their karma. Maybe that's why they're here. I don't know. I don't know. The fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation. Oh, I skipped a line. This is exactly what happens to people who are convinced by Satan into believing that he doesn't exist, so they have no defense against him. That's relevant right now. There's a lot of people saying Satan doesn't exist. And he's definitely existing, at least in some form maybe that's archetypical. Satan is his metaphorical representation, does exist, the shadow side. So let's go on to the fourth step. The fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation with electronic means. It contains three different orientations. One is to make mankind believe that an alien off-world invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all of those nations which launch nuclear weapons to disarm when the invasion is shown to have been false. And how will the United Nations know that the invasion was false? They will have staged it, of course. Whew. Oh boy. The second is to make the Christians believe that the rapture is going to occur with the supposed divine intervention of an alien off-world civilization coming to rescue Earthlings from a savage and merciless demon. Its goal will be to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the New World Order in one major stroke, actually within hours of the beginning of the Sky Show. The third orientation, I will just say though, I've heard a lot of rapture talk. A lot of this maybe, is there some sort of rapture event coming? Personally, I mean, it based on what these people do, it could qualify as one, but it's a staged rapture. So the third orientation in the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at the time will allow supernatural forces to travel through optical fibers, coaxial cables, TV, electrical, and phone lines in order to penetrate everyone at once through major appliances. Embedded chips will already be in place. Ha! That sounds familiar. The goal of this deals with global satanic ghosts projected all around the world in order to push all populations to the edge of hysteria and madness, to drown them into a wave of suicide, murder, and permanent psychological disorders. After the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to reestablish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of abdication of freedom. You know, half the people didn't even need this. They just went along with it anyways. Just imagine when more fear is implemented. Phasing out cash and independence. This is the last section. The techniques used in the fourth step is exactly the same used in the past in the USSR to force the people to accept communism. The same technique will be used by the United Nations to implement the New World Religion, the New World Order. A lot of people, when this is going to happen, he had a typo, not me. He had a typo, and how they will accomplish the visions of the night of the 1,000 stars and the events that will point to the days when it will begin. According to the many reports we have received, we believe it will begin with some kind of worldwide economic disaster. Ha! Ha! Wow, that sounds familiar. Not a complete crash, wow, but enough to allow them to introduce some kind of in-between currency before they introduce their electronic cash to replace all paper or plastic money. It all starts tying together. The in-between currency will be used to force anyone with savings to spend or turn in their cash because they understand that people who have money and are not dependent upon them might be the very ones who will mount an insurrection against them. If everyone is broke, no one can fund a war of any kind. Paper currency will cease to exist. This is one of the first signs. And let me tell you, we're moving real close to cashless society. It's coming. It's coming. But to implement the worldwide electronic money system, everyone in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. Before that time, everyone will have spent before the year 2000. Well, I guess he was wrong about the year. All of their cash reserves and assets. Everyone has to be 100% dependent upon the council for their existence. We are fostering a culture of dependency. It's literally what one of my last episodes is about. To prevent any kind of independence, the New World Order has already implanted microchips in wild animals, birds, fish, etc. Why? They want to make certain people that the people who will not accept the New World Order will not be able to hunt or fish anywhere in the world. If they try, They will be tracked and traced by satellites, then hunted down and imprisoned or killed. And they're also starting with the we talk about the smart grid. Saw an article the other day that the forests that they're regenerating, the forests, national forest system, installing cameras, chips to be part of the smart grid. Why is there I can't say the towers, why are they in every place? I'm in South Dakota, middle of fucking nowhere. Like, surrounded by farms, towers everywhere. Why? It would be very difficult to find somewhere there isn't a tower. There isn't frequency being emitted. It's all part of the smart grid. The New World Order is already changing the laws of all nations to make everyone dependent upon a single food and vitamin supply. They are changing laws about religion and psychiatric disorders in order to identify anyone who is potentially threatening to the NWO. Those who are found defective will be sent to the eradication camps where their organs will be taken and sold to the highest bidders. We already have organ harvesting. That might get the video taken off of YouTube. Those who are not killed, if it's not already taken down, let's be realistic. Those who are not killed outright will be used as slave labor or used in medical experiments. The goal of a dictatorship is to control everyone, everywhere on the planet, ruthlessly and without exception. That's why the new technology being introduced everywhere is the technology for the control of the people. The technology in the 40s and 50s was used to help people have an easier and more productive life. And, a lot of this technology we could use for an easier and productive life. How many benefits? Like, look at, I'm putting out a podcast. I could connect to, 100 different countries in theory. So there's great interconnected, like, tech that comes that we could use for the betterment of humanity, but it's used for shit like this. Always ask what the goal is. Why are they implementing this? Who benefits? Do we benefit? Why the push for everyone to be on the smart grid, to have a phone? This is the last paragraph by Sergey. The new technology is designed and built to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for a specific purpose, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire populations of the world, is to deny the emergence of the Antichrist and the establishment of the New World Order religion and government. If you cannot see, if you cannot learn, if you cannot understand, then you and your family and friends will succumb to the fires of the crematoria that have been built in every state, in every major city on earth, built to deal with you. No one is safe in a totalitarian police state. Serge Monast. Thank you, Sergey. I want to take a moment here, honor Sergey. Thank you for your true sacrifice, for bringing this information out. Honoring your spirit here in this moment. Because everything that he said, I really trust my internal guidance system. Everything he said ringing true, and you can see it playing out in the world right now. And I don't say that to be pessimistic. Ultimately, we are infinite and eternal as beings. So our souls, man, they exist long after this body is gone. Let me tell you that. We're here on our school. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. And even in death, it's just transformation. I sat with my father in the hospital 2015, May 5th, 1 a.m. And I held his hand as he passed. He passed away. And that moment of transformation, it was one of the most beautiful moments of my life. I'm so grateful to have witnessed it because it put me into context. Who I am as a being, beyond just Evan McDermott, creator of the fifth dimension. You know, we're so much more. We're so much more. So when we look at things like this, remember who you are and have no fear. What happens in death? Transformation. Do I like this life? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Want to die? No. I got more to learn here, but there's nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. And when we lose the fear, that's when these plans get foiled. The only way they can do this shit is if we're sitting passively in fear. You know, it's very simple. Wake the fuck up. Very simple. Trust your inner guidance system right now. Be willing to ask questions. Because, you know, over the past year and a half, conspiracy theorists have been proven right time again. So the next step is going to be a bigger crash of the economy. Cyber attacks, we're already seeing that happen. And those are going to crash the economy, more than likely. That's the game that these people are playing. Shortage of the food supply, money's going to break down. I mean, the dollar's off at the gold standard. There's a reason they created the Federal Reserve. There's a reason the Titanic sank, and it's because there were people on it who were going to America to oppose the Federal Reserve. Tangent for another day. Seriously, it's go research that one. You know, crypto feels to me, and that could even be controlled in this as well. The only way forward, we have to exit the dollar. That's happening. So what's the alternative? What can we do? Stock up on resources, food, water, know where you can bug out outside, survive if you need to, guns, ammo, things like that. Be able to survive, hunt. Although clearly, according to Sergey, we may not be able to do that for very long. But be self-sufficient, self-responsible, and you'll be all right. You'll survive these parts. It may be difficult. You're going to have to adjust. Lifestyle is going to have to change. Priorities are going to have to change. But you can survive. There's no need to panic. No need to fear in any of this. There's no need to fear as long as you are self-sufficient in trust in your inner guidance system beyond you in this identity. That fight or flight survival mode, adrenaline will kick in. And if you don't make it, you're infinite and you're eternal. We cannot fear death. We cannot fear death, because if we fear death, we fear life, and we're willing to just go roll with these type of divide and conquer these policies. So trust yourself right now. Trust yourself right now. After the one world currency is implemented, you know, if we see the crash of the dollar and the attempt at GovCoins, which made the Newsweek, or I think it might have been Newsweek, front of the magazine, the GovCoin idea. I don't know if it was Newsweek. I'll have to double check that. But fairly recently, talking about that idea of one world currency, was one of the first signs. So we just need to be prepared. You can ask the question, why are they peppering us with all this alien news? I mean, aliens are real. You can speak to them in other dimensions, frequencies. I already mentioned this. Other vibrations. But they're not as we're being presented, I believe. Not as it's being presented to us. We have to ask deeper questions. Why would the mainstream news be telling the truth now? Just because it's about aliens? You think they're not going to slant it? Of course they are. It's their job. But yeah, just trust yourself in this time. There's no need to feel fear. No need to feel fear. Be yourself. Love, light. End of the day, do what you got to do to protect you, protect your family. I'm faithful. I'm quite faithful. I'm living such a good life right now. Like radiant, that I'll do anything to keep living it. Just gonna keep doing it as long as I can, being myself authentically in this human form. So that's all we can do. All we can do. If you're a fan of the show, whatever platform you're on, be sure to subscribe. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of it really does help. 5 stars if you're on Apple Podcast. If you're feeling it, you ain't got to do it. It's cool. But yeah, follow us on Instagram at Evan McDermott, at the Fifth Dimension Podcast. And that should be about it. Subscribe because we got more great episodes coming, a lot of good interviews. Hopefully this was insightful, informative. It was for me. Shit, I feel way more like I kind of just did this for myself, if we're being honest. In a lot of ways, I wanted to really have this format to do that in. So I'm glad I did. Hope you guys got from it as much as I did. Let's go wrap up this episode. I'll see you all next time. So long.